Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today for State of the Shooting Sports Industry and How Leadership Impacts Performance. This is Kenyon Gleason, President of NASGW. Really appreciate you taking time to join us today. I think we've got a great call. I want to thank Chris and George for their efforts from Growth Strategy Partners in putting this together. And of course, thanks to Dan and Aaron for joining us as panelists today. Aaron Keating from Lipseys and Dan Rice from Vista. So we got a great group of folks on the call today. A lot of great information to cover. Kind of looking back at 2018 and of course looking ahead at 2019. We've got a moving market and it's been, hard on some, a little easier on others. Definitely still a lot of things changing and moving out there in the shooting sports industry. NASGW had a big year this year with the launch of our new data program called Scope. You'll hear a little bit more information about that today on the phone here. But if you're interested in greater detail about what we have available, particularly after you've heard from some of the guests today talking a little bit about it, give us a call. We'd be happy to walk you through what we've created. We think it's going to be very helpful to all of our members. And then, of course, again, we're going to have a really good outlook here for 2019 and give you some ideas of what some industry insiders are thinking. So thank you all so much for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate these calls. We appreciate you spending some time with us. I look forward to a great call. And Chris, I'll turn it over to you. Everybody have a great holiday.
Kenyon, thanks very much. Welcome, everybody. A couple administrative notes. We are recording this. We can send out a link to the recording when we're done. We will send you the copy of the presentation when we're done. But more importantly, if you have questions along the way, there should be a window to your right where it says questions. If you type some questions in, we'll try to respond to them during the presentation, if not at the end. This is our, I think it's our fifth State of the Industry webinar. And, the goal had started off with a discussion about what has happened historically and what the future is going to be looking like. And then what we try to do is share with you some tools or techniques that you can use to improve your performance going forward. And we looked at it again this year, but when we start looking at what drives performance, we've learned that you can have all the tools and techniques, out there, because again, most of them are out there and they're public. But it really, what characterizes and differentiates those companies that are more successful than others is the leadership in that company. And so that's going to be one of the themes we're going to talk about today, is not only what the state of the industry is and what the forecast might be of the future, but what can you do to make your business higher performing, than the rest. I found a quote that I liked. Brian Tracy, very large organization, talked about, the value of a business, comes down to the leader in that performance. So as you go through today's discussion, I guess my question to you is, A, are you happy with your performance? And if not, what are you going to do about it? Okay, so hopefully there's some motivation coming out of today, because the goals are, give you some insights on how to improve your business, but also motivate you to take action. We'll talk a little more about that later. We'll start with introductions. We're going to go through what the current situation is. We're going to ask Crystal, what does your boss say? What's the future look like? We'll also ask you some questions, some polls to see what the general perspective is on what demand looks like overall. And then we'll talk about leadership and how that impacts performance, and then a little wrap up. So first, quickly with introductions, here's the four of us today. I'm the real good looking one on the left there, Chris DiCenso. I've been doing this for 15 years, actually 15 years with Growth Strategy Partners. I started as a manufacturing engineer with Stern Ruger and built a lot of businesses and processes and organizations over the years. And I will tell you, without going into the details, what I've learned over the years, and obviously seeing a lot of companies and owners each year as a consultant, it's the leadership. It starts at the top, and that's what impacts performance of the business going forward. And so that's, again, why this theme came in here today. So I'm going to just end with that. And George, you want to give them a little insights here on yourself?
A little insight. I guess most people would know me as the co-founder of the Sig Sauer Academy. I established the pro shop at the academy and turned that into a real money-making process. Pretty versatile in all aspects of firearms manufacturing, competitive shooting, hunting, you name it. I'm deeply embedded in it. If it's anything outside of firearms, don't ask me. I don't know anything. But firearms is the name of the game with me. Chris and I have been associated since 2011, and we've had a tremendous amount of successes as a team in working together with a number of companies. You'll see those listed in one of the slides that we've had some successes. Aaron?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I've been with Lipseys of over 15 years, so in a short time, I've got a lot of experience in the firearms distribution industry, and I handle a lot of the technology in the building as far as our internal operations, and as far as that bleeds over into sales operations in EDI, our e-commerce offerings, everything having to do on the tech side. I'm also heavily involved with the NESGW and have been for a long time, and I'm a current member of the NESGW, the Scope Project Guidance Committee, setting the path for the NESGW Scope project and its offerings and different features and things like that. So excited to be on the call and appreciate it.
Dan, how about you?
Hey, Dan Rice. I've only been with Vista for about 14 months now, but been around the industry for last 10, 11 years. Worked in the firearm side of it for the bulk of that, and before that, buyer for some ammunition and gunpowder things. So, looking at the Scope program as far as when things are launching out and everything along that, we had some great conversations with the team at NESGW, and we're very excited about the accessories portion of that. Obviously, with my side of it with Vista, I work on the tactical business unit. So Blackhawk Eagle, Uncle Mike's Gunmate, that's my focus on the day-to-day. So mostly looking at the sales side of things now, but still kind of getting myself away from the product. We're setting up the whole new business unit for us, so helping each other out quite a bit, a lot of cross-pollination and roles right now, and looking forward to being able to focus on sales team and growing our partners here with the NESGW group.
I thank Dan and Aaron and George for joining us here today. Well, Aaron comes from the distribution side, Dan comes from the manufacturing side, so I hopefully think, in fact, I know, I've talked to them both earlier, they'll provide some great insights today throughout their discussion. Last thing on the introduction side is Growth Strategy Partners. Many of you, you've seen this before. We run a consulting business. Our goal is to accelerate, the revenue, profit, and organizational performance of companies in the shooting sports industry. We've got some research on these 7 keys to growth. I'm not going to go into them. You can see the clients we've worked for in the bottom. But I'm going to probably talk to them blue in the face about the impact of leadership, and the more successful companies and clients have very strong leadership or learn to become better leaders. And, what we're proud of is the results we've created, on average 220% profit improvement with our clients, 7 times return on professional fees, basically what they pay us versus what they get back. And, we've learned that the clients that come to us are those that want to accelerate their growth, and we're happy to work with them. The 2 themes today, one is relativity and the other is leadership. The point about relativity, because we're going to talk about the state of the industry, we're going to talk about how it performed last year and what the forecast or so might be for this year. But the point is, growth and success and performance is all relative. It's all relative to maybe not only the industry, but the segment that you might be in. And, I remember talking to an owner of a shooting industry company in 2016, and he was very happy. He goes, Chris, I was up 10% in 16. I said, I'm sorry to hear that. He's like, well, wait, that's pretty good. I said, yeah, but, on average, adjusted NICS, if you use as a baseline, was up 10% also. So you did the same as everybody else. You're average. And he was kind of deflated with that answer. But the reality is it's all relative to how you do versus the competition. And if the market's down 7%, you're down 2%, you don't like 2%, but relatively speaking, you outperform the market. And if the market's up 6 and you're up 6, you did the same. You didn't really do anything to outperform the business. And so We'll talk a lot about relatively, how are you doing versus others, and then again, the impact of leadership and how important that is to making a successful company. We have almost about half on the call today, presidents, CEOs, GMs, what I call in that top leadership position, along with others in the sales and operations and finance side. But you're also leaders of your function, your department. And so, we're talking to everybody here. And, I hope one of the takeaways is this learning about leadership. So let's get into the current situation. So what's going on? Let me start with a quick review of adjusted NICS. So adjusted, in this case, we're taking out a lot of this is really the pure sales of firearms, long guns, other, and taking out some of the other pieces of it. And what you'll see, so year to date through November, adjusted NICS compared to last year is down 6%, 6.3%. I threw in there, you see that December 2017, if you put in last year's number, that'll keep us at that 6%, but the last 3 months have been down months, relatively speaking. September was down 9%, October was down 12%, and November was down 10% versus last year. I think we'd all know it's a much slower recovery. In fact, you can't say it's a recovery yet, versus last year. We expect it to be a lot higher at this point in time. When you peel away the handgun versus long gun split, the decline's about the same. We haven't seen necessarily a much larger decrease in handguns versus long guns or vice versa. So what we're looking at right now, is a down year, probably close to 6-something% year over year from 2017. The two lines you see up there, there's this horizontal, or I guess slope, going from lower left to top right. I was actually drawing a line going back to 2004, 2003 to see, geez, if you did a straight line going up and you kind of cut through the years in 2012 and so forth, you almost end up with where we are at 2018 coming through. And then that horizontal line at the top said, geez, what happens if we flattened out, with where we are today? If you look at that, it almost points to an up year. Again, that's just straight all math, but it almost points to an up year going forward. But let me do one more thing here is, from the public company perspective, we had some mixed reaction. Ruger was up 10% in the third quarter, but they were down 8% for the last 9 months. Now, their earnings were also down. Smith & Wesson, American Outdoor Brands, again, the revenue was up, and the profits are up. And Vista was down in Q2 and down. Profits were also down in this quarter, Q2. So different time frames because of when the year ends, but that's currently the current status. So, and that's just from a NICS as one of the baselines that most of us look at relative to performance of the industry. So let me now bring in our experts and ask them, how would you describe the current situation? Why do you think, and I'll start maybe with Aaron, why do you think the industry is where it is today? And also let's talk a little about Lipseys and how Lipseys perform. Aaron?
Sure. So the overall demand right now, we see it a few factors, and to touch on those, now there's not, to go on the political market, the political pressure isn't there. So you're not having any fear in the marketplace. So people had to get back to, selling, running their business. Things aren't just going to happen on their own. And we think we've done a good job of that. Right now it's a buyer's market as much as it's ever been, and information's available at a rate that's never been before. So you've got people making a lot smarter decisions. They're holding out for things they want to buy. You've got some things in the marketplace and the distribution channel that have changed over the last year that impacted some things. So all those kind of play a role, we think. As far as how we've performed, we're happy with our performance this year. We're trending up from last year. We think we're going to finish with a very good year, and we're not too far off from 2016. And we think we've done a good job identifying the goals we wanted to achieve, focusing on ourselves, and then relying with our key partners, our manufacturers, and our dealers to make that all happen. So that's where we kind of see the market. We think it's driven by new product. There's going to be a lot of innovation coming that we're excited about that will match that trend line. Hopefully you showed how it ends for next year, but we think it's still a positive market. It's going to be what you make it. If you're positive going into things, we think you'll have success. And then if you're looking at things and maybe need to adjust the way you do things or change some internal processes or reach, your customers a different way, you might have to identify those pieces and change some things up so that you can be successful if this year isn't being so kind to you.
So first, let me go back. You said you had an up year. Could you elaborate a little more as to why? You had
Sure.
some high-level points, but what do you think of the specifics of why? And so I'll make the assumption that you think Lipsey's outperformed the market. Well, you're up versus the down market. And how would you compare that to other distributors, wholesalers, and why?
Yeah. So I think we've done a good job with some of the manufacturer. One of the factors, some manufacturer partners we added in 2017, we've increased our business. They've increased our business with them. We've had a lot more success with them in 2018, and we think that's helped. We've made some, our partnerships with our manufacturers are everything to us. We exist because they exist, and we've done a good job, finding opportunities for our dealers. We continue to find new opportunities, new business partners for us to work with this year, due to some market changes. Maybe, they were dealing with some people and maybe some things didn't go right, or maybe they just needed more inventory sources, whatever the case is, and we've been able to help them. And we do a good job. We set our goals and we focus daily on what we need to accomplish them. And, it's a team effort, and we don't try to listen too much to what everybody else is doing outside. We obviously keep our ear to the ground, but we focus on what we're trying to accomplish and then, set our goals to that. So we have realistic goals, and, we think we've done a good job servicing our customers, and we think it paid off in 2018 from 2017. We're happy with where we're trending, and we think, the opportunities we have, we think we're only going to get better. And then we're always, looking at new partnerships and different verticals we could be in and inventory positions. And we think that's also helped, is that we've done a good job this year as far. Our buying team does a great job of identifying the inventory we need, making sure we're in stock in the key places, growing where we need to be. And we think that's helped us a lot with our dealers and knowing that they can get the things they need from us when they need it. So, as far as trending for this year, we're happy where we're going to end up, and we're still pushing. We don't stop. And then next year we'll do some self investigation, see what we think we can do next year, and keep it going. So in that respect, we think we've done. While NICS checks are down in the overall market, we focusing internally on what we do in our team. We think we've done a good job, and sometimes it looks like a big number or something at the beginning of the year, and you're like, how are we going to do that? But then, as the year goes on, you realize we've all got the plan in place, and we make it happen.
Thanks. Dan, how about with you and Vista? First, how would you describe the current situation? Why is it, down? And then, how's Vista performed and why?
Yeah, I can speak to some of that. A lot of it will be based around my business unit and not the kind of the overall company to it. But we did sell off the eyewear business this year. So there are some adjustments to the overall number, and it's not just a flat down sales number. We have a overall company number, and that's where you reflect your sale in. So coming out of that, it's I've been talking over the last month and a half, 2 months now, talking to a bunch of our partners and just kind of getting a pulse from where they're at on what they're seeing and how what they're developing in the marketplace. And it's really interesting. It's like Aaron just said with Lipseys, they're up. And then you'll talk to the next customer and they're down, and then you'll talk to another one and they're flat. And I think it really determines on how they're looking at their business and what they're doing, and did they set those appropriate goals. We knew that this was going to be on the tax side. We knew it was going to be a challenging year. There's a lot of great competitors in the marketplace, and good competition obviously leads us to have some fun with that. But at the end of it, it's challenging marketplace right now. I think we all have to remember that we're selling a passion item. This isn't something that, when you get up in the morning and you go to work and you have, you may not necessarily need another box of ammo to go to work. You may not necessarily need a new backpack to go to work. So that a lot of people are buying these things out of when they want them, not necessarily when they need them. And to hit on that other point, the fear buying is gone. I don't think the change in the House is really going to make that difference with the Senate, and obviously the president's sticking the same. So, but it's not. I don't believe it to be dire straits. We all want it. You said earlier, walk into it with a positive attitude. We've got some levers to pull, and we obviously, innovation is king, and we're going to keep working right through that and prop ourselves up on it.
I don't know about you, but I do need another backpack, and I do need a few more guns, and I do need more ammo, and but that's a whole different story. One of the questions I'll ask Dan. What trends is a question from the audience here? What trends have you seen in the big box stores? Can you answer that?
I'd say it depends on which one. Some are doing well. They're still doing fine. I think what they're saying is they're hitting some numbers, and other ones are saying they're struggling a little bit right now. I think it's up to us as manufacturers is to understand from them, if they are struggling, is it a product set that they're struggling with? Is it a pricing issue that they're up against? Is it the competition from all the .com? Whereas, at the end of the day, people don't need to go outside their house to buy pretty much everything they need, unless you're going to go transfer a firearm. You can have pretty much everything else delivered right to your house. So that's obviously been a topic that a lot of people have been talking about. Is the internet is not a new thing for our businesses. It's become a necessity on how we all do business. So as they innovate through the platforms and the internet and the selling, that may change how their store offering versus how their internet offering is going to be displayed as well.
Yeah, I'll have to echo what he says as well. As it depends who you're talking about. You have somebody on one end of the spectrum that it isn't doing well at all in the firearms industry and potentially wants to get out of it altogether, and you have some that are picking up the slack and having a lot of success implementing new programs in their stores, having new special order programs that tie in with their e-commerce website. Maybe they've identified, we need to be in this game too, and have people have the ability to order online. You've had consolidation in the last year. You've had store closings of chains, so you've got it all over the place. And it's finding the opportunities, where you fit into their mix, and what can you provide them, as far as service and inventory availability to help alleviate the pressure, and what can you offer them, to take things off their plate. Maybe you can offer some different value-added services or something along those lines. So we've definitely seen it, and it's something you have to adjust to, and figure out how you're gonna go forward trying to service these accounts and get them on board and help guide them, down the path of inventory positions and ordering frequency and store in stocks and everything along the way to help them be successful.
You sound like a data-driven guy there, Aaron.
Yeah. When it comes to big box stores, it is usually because they're going to work off of, numbers from stores, point of sale data. They're going to kind of let it dictate itself how it's going to go, and you got to help them do that.
Agreed. Hey, George, you've seen, we've worked on similar clients. We've worked on some different clients. What's your take on where we're at and why?
Well, I think that the market's fairly flat right now, and just like Dan and Aaron said, some are up, some are down. But the ones that are taking the bull by the horns and doing a little bit of innovation are the ones that are up. And we'll talk about shops, as an example. Those folks that are implementing the programs that Aaron was just talking about, and then going that extra step, one of the new things now is try before you buy. And basically, they set up a program so that you can come in and try products, and then if you try these things on their indoor range, you get to buy what you want, and then that helps to upsell because you've got extra holsters, cleaning gear, and all that kind of good stuff that go along with it, and you develop a client that way, as opposed to somebody just walking in and they say, what do you want? I want a revolver. Okay, this is what we've got, and they show them, and that's about it. The other thing that that I see helping is offering just some simple training type things, safety, and a little bit about how to handle the firearm properly and that kind of stuff. And a big part of it is, with handguns in particular, is fitting the gun to the hand of the shooter. So these little extra perks help the gun shop to stave off a lot of the internet type stuff. But bottom line is we're going along right now. It's going to be, I think, pretty flat, and the people that are going to excel are the ones that are innovators and the differentiators, and they'll do fine. And the ones that just want to do the business as usual and hope for the best are probably going to go on the downside and maybe even fall by the wayside.
Agreed. So let me do this, because a lot of this is going to be a little bit of history, but more of it's going to be what's the future look like, and how do we plan and be more successful in the future. So what I'm going to do is ask the audience. We've got these ask the audience polls now, and so I'm going to ask the audience, those listening, what do you think overall demand will be in 2019 versus 2018? So what I'd like you to do is go in and actually just answer that. And I've got the up over 10%, up over 5%, and then the middle one is kind of up or down 5%, which I'll consider more flat, then down over 5% and down over 10%. So if everyone would go through and click on an answer, and then we'll share that with everybody, and where'd that go? And we'll discuss it. So again, like probably another 10 seconds or so. Let's see what everyone's going to think, and then we'll have a response to that, and then we'll talk about what Crystal's ball says here. All right, I think we're pretty much. Look, everyone's still voting. Over 90% voting on this. This is great. And what you're going to see is going to be very interesting. So I'm going to close this right now, and I'm going to share with everybody. And I'm going to ask George. I hope I didn't hit the wrong button. Look at that.
Oh, gun it.
Back to this. That one is what I want to do. You see the poll there, George?
I guess everybody agreed with me.
Is that how you read it?
And I didn't even have Crystal's ball in front of me.
You influenced the jury here.
I should have not said a word.
Well, so the majority are seeing this flat, right? That's your 62%. Although, I guess you look 26% think it's going to be up versus 13% think it's going to be down. Aaron, the reaction to that?
Yeah, I would have put in the the middle. I was actually in the up over 5% bucket personally, just because I know there's going to be a lot of new product innovation as far as the firearms market coming in 2019, and then programs rolling out, things like that. We think, speaking from a personal level, Lipseys, we think we'll see, increases just because of those demands. And then actually right now is also a good time to get into the firearms market, because you can get any inventory you want if opening new stores. So we're anticipating some of that. So, it's hard for us to speak to the ammo side because we don't, do a lot in that. But as far as firearms go, we think there's going to be a lot of opportunity, with innovative products and inventory positions getting back to normal, that from a wholesale perspective, people are going to rely on wholesale more. So, we're being optimistic, I guess, or maybe personally I am, saying we're going to be, up 5% or more, just thinking, the way we do business, and we're looking forward to our manufacturers, partners, what they have coming out and how that will pull inventory and sales along. So maybe we're just, being a little bit more optimistic than some.
Do you think you're optimistic, or do you think you're actually performing better? And I'm going to pull in the leadership piece, and you talked about new products. I mean, do you think Lipseys is a higher performing organization? That's why you're getting the results, or is it just pure luck?
Yeah, I mean, we set high goals for ourselves, and we look to accomplish them. So if that falls under higher performing, than our competition, or we really just try to compete with ourselves. So we look at what we've done, we look at what's coming, the success we had in 2018 with some of the new manufacturer partners we have, new initiatives we're having that we see we can generate the business that we want to do. And then having the relationships with our customers is always number one. And then we see a lot of those growing, getting better, some new opportunities in terms of what we're looking at to be able to take advantage of. So, that, and then inventory, we, like I said, inventory, having it in stock when somebody wants it, that's going to be big. And then, working with our manufacturers to keep the supply chain flowing and staying in stock is going to be big. So the market, we think, because it is so competitive still though, with, being a buyer's market and all the e-commerce pressure and everything like that. But if you can tap into those opportunities, on a company level, then you can start to see maybe the overall business is over, but then you start to take market share and you grow that way. And then, how you treated people in the past is going to dictate what happens in the future when they're looking to do business with you. Did you treat them right when things were not so great? Did you keep your prices reasonable? Did you, what did you do? What ethics did you follow? And we're always following, we honor everything our manufacturers put forward. We follow the rules, and I think it trickles down, and our customers see that we're a good, solid company to work with, and we'll take care of them. I think that is going to continue to go forward as well, and those relationships we built will just continue to strengthen, and then we'll have more opportunities, together. We'll grow their business, they'll help us grow, and we can keep adding those people as we go.
You made a comment about competing with yourself. Made me think of some research that I'm an engineer, right? So I'm a data-driven guy. And Bain and Company, which is a very large strategy consulting firm, they did some research with their client base and the Fortune 500 CEOs, and the question was, if you didn't grow, why didn't you grow? And 75% of those CEOs said the reason why they didn't grow was themselves. It was they did not put the right plan, goal, they didn't execute well, and they didn't have strong leadership. They couldn't make decisions. And it kind of and it went on to say it's not about the competition as much. It's not about what's going on in the environment. It's them internally. And so kind of competing with yourself is how well can you as a team get aligned and organized on how to grow. So it just echoes that. Dan, what's your reaction to the flat? And what's the thoughts on with your segment, your division there?
Yeah, so I mean, it echoes everything that I've been hearing from the partners and the customers that we're working with, and then the optimism of the up over 5. I think it's right in there. I mean, when you see at the end of the day, one of the biggest focuses that we have when I'm tasking all my sales guys with, and that I'm asking our partners to work with us on is planning. No one wants to be stuck with a bunch of inventory. No one wants to be stuck with the wrong inventory. We all want to make sure we have the right products. So, one of the big focuses that obviously we're working on is S&OP. We've put a lot of energy into that, and as we're going forward with it, if you're looking at it right and you're planning it out right, I think Aaron said a moment ago, or you did, that it's no one wants to be out of stock on product, but you also don't want to have too much. So there's that happy balance there. And when you have product in stock, you don't miss turns. You don't miss turns, then obviously you're gonna order more. You're gonna stock more in, but you're not gonna be over inventoried on it. So there's I think the slide back you were talking about cash flow, and that's obviously a big portion of that as well. So as we're going back and forth on it, there's quite a bit of I think, there's opportunity for growth, just not necessarily in your overall sales number, but growth in the profitability and the planning side of things as well. So, your sales numbers may not be indicative into the growth and the health of your company, but as you're sitting there and deciding, what's important to your company, what's important to your brands, you may be okay with hitting, that certain sales number, and you tighten up in some other areas to make yourself a little bit better profit at the end of the day as well. So if flat to up or down 5 and you're still a healthy, profitable company, it's not a bad situation. Obviously, we all want to see, the up over 10. We all want to be, back in the heyday a little bit. But even at that point, everyone had growing pains then too. It was great. Everyone was selling everything they could, but it wasn't sustainable. And, manufacturers, distributors, everyone got hurt by that. I mean, gun stores are still reeling from, random inventory that they have that, it's still sitting in the corner if it hasn't been donated to a 4-H or Boy Scouts or something along those lines.
Well, a couple things. Let's first be clear what we're talking about here. We've asked, what do we think, I'll say, macro demand is, for the industry, and that's that flat, right? And differentiating what each company could do. But let's just take that we all assume that next year is going to be flat. This, to me, dictates, and Dan and Aaron kind of echoed this, you need to do some new innovations. Dan, you're driving S&OP, sales and operations planning. That was actually one of the 4 goals we said every company should work on our last webinar. But in order to outperform that 5%, you've got to do better than the competition, right? And I hear from both Dan and Aaron, they have programs and goals and initiatives in place to do that. And that might be, well, actually, it is one of the questions to those listening. What are you going to do differently if this is the plan? How are you going to outperform? And that's, again, what we're talking about, because, when 16 and things are doing well, when you're riding it, again, if you're up 10% and the industry's up 10%, you're up 10%, but you just did average. So what's going to happen? What are you going to do to outperform going forward? And that's a little bit we'll talk about here next. So let me share with some other things we had. Smith & Wesson, American Outdoor Brands, they were projecting a 4% increase in sales for 2019. Again, their calendar's off a little. And then Vista was down 8, as Dan mentioned. That was mostly due to the sale of that eyewear business unit. So, as we look at the data, we're looking at, kind of a flat next year at the macro side. Again, you're a distributor, you're a manufacturer, you're doing handguns, you're doing ammo, you're doing long guns, high-end market, low-end market. There's all these sub-pieces to it, and you got to look at it that way. George.
I don't know, maybe my computer, my screen just went back to pictures of you and me and Aaron, so.
Oh, look at that. I see the same thing. Let me, I apologize for that. Something must have changed here. Let's see. How's that?
I still don't have the right
it comes
shot.
through here in a second.
It's your whole desktop now.
Hey, cool. See if I can get this figured out. Sorry about that. You pressed the wrong button, and that's what happens. Let's see if this works a little better here. What are you seeing now?
I've got
your whole desktop.
How good are your assumptions? And then the next slide is today's goal.
You can see in the top corner there. Okay. I'm afraid to do something to. Well, let me try one more thing here. I'm gonna turn it off and turn it on again, and maybe that'll fix it. Nope, I see the same thing you guys are seeing, so I apologize for that. Without messing with the screen again, I'm gonna try to continue this way. I don't think there's many more slides that. Huh?
I can see the slides. They're just subdued.
Okay. I might change it as we get to a future one here. Sorry about that.
Let's just
technical difficulties. We love it, and I'm pretty sure it's not the Russians.
Chinese.
Thank you, George. So as we get into, the future, part of what we're asking here is, how good are your assumptions? The caption, for those that can't read it, say, I made the mistake of assuming the manager of a Christian bookstore wouldn't have a gun. Obviously, people in prison. But the question is, what are you assuming, next year going forward, both for demand, and then how does that relate to your business? And how are you going to plan for that, again, from a data perspective? So now let's talk about, the impact on leadership and on performance. So when you look at improving in 2019 and beyond, I think Dan and Aaron and George, you did mention differentiation, you mentioned new products, the improved management systems. I think, Dan, you mentioned sales and operations planning, linking in there. Aaron, you mentioned the numbers, the data part of this. And I've been, preaching leadership for a long time. So real quickly, Dan, are there some key things you'd say that need to be done to be successful in 2019? What are let's say, 3 key points?
Honestly, I think the first and biggest thing is innovate. You've got to have great products, and as a manufacturer side of things, is you need to be a tremendous partner, and everyone wants at the end of the day to come and see what new products are coming out. Historically, it's been the SHOT Show time frame, and everyone gets to go see the new stuff and take a look at it all, and if it hasn't been done at a line review already. But I really think the biggest thing is going to be product driven, because there's got to be a better mousetrap out there to get something done. Secondly, for me is the numbers. When we're sitting there and I'm having a meeting at the NASGW show, or I'm having a meeting at one of the headquarters, it really comes down to is not just what your sales numbers are, but what are your inventory issues? Are you having aged inventory problems? Are you getting loaded up in certain areas where it used to sell great for you? So really, it's finding out what the trending things are. And last is listen to the customer. The voice of the customer is a very important thing. It's a very great tool. They don't just go buy a product anymore. When you look at a traditional marketing funnel and how it all brings its way down, you've got to have brand awareness. So if your customer doesn't know you, then I think you need to step back and take a look at how some of the marketing reach is being done and what your conversion rates are on that as well, and really make sure that the message that you're putting out there is reaching the target market that you're trying to sell to. All too many times, there's so many options in media that may not be buying the right media, or may not be buying the right mode of media. So between those 3 things, getting to the customer, having the right product they want to see, and making sure that you're being a good and respectful partner to your customers and vendors. I think those are 3 great things to focus on.
Okay. Aaron?
Yeah, so as far as differentiation goes, we think we do a great job with our Lipseys exclusive line of firearms. We're very fortunate to have some great relationships with our manufacturers and design some innovative firearms, that are only available from us, that can really help dealers drive traffic in their stores, give them something different in the shelves to stock. They set them apart from other people, and we think we do a great job with that. Jason Clausen, our VP Product Development Manager, does a great job working with the manufacturers to get us, to plan those projects, and some take a very long time, and we try to do the best job we can marketing them and launching them and getting them to the dealers, in a efficient manner and having the best impact for everybody. So we think that really helps set us apart. New products, inventory, that we think new products is going to be a very big boom for us, because now that with the way the market is now, we think manufacturers have time to focus on new products and not have to have machinery turning out, just to keep up with demand. Now demand is leveled, and now they can focus on being innovative, and the projects they've maybe been working on, now they can get through testing, and now they can start to come out. And now, they'll get to the marketplace, and that'll drive excitement. And building the relationships we have with our manufacturer partners as far as inventory goes in 2019, and evaluating some new partners, and keep growing that way. The management systems is interesting because now a dealer all the way down to the mom and pop store can get into some very cool, useful, innovative technology that helps them innovate their entire supply chain, where before it might have been a very big investment. Now they can make an investment, not much at all, or in relation to how much they're spending on advertising or anything like that, and have much better selling and planning tools, catalog tie-ins, forecasting. They can have a lot for what they're getting, and so we see a lot more people getting into that and having better use of their data, and you have to be able to tie in with them and do some things there. And then knowing the numbers, using the data, I know we're going to rely heavily on the NESGW scope project and the manufacturer partners there and the distributors, and using that data to make good buying decisions for the year and evaluating new lines and seeing what's going on in the marketplace. So we think that is a big initiative that the industry's needed for some time. Other industries have had this for a long time. I know the mutual fund industry, things like that, they already have these sharing systems to where they can evaluate themselves as far as how they stand in their industry. And I think this is going to be a very big, tool for us. And we thank everybody that's participating in it, because this is going to make everybody better, from the manufacturers to the distributors, to make better decisions, whether it's what they need to manufacture, maybe it's what we need to buy. And we think that'll help a lot. And then, the leadership portion, we have a great team here. We kind of focus on letting the team set the path, and then, come up with the ways how we're going to do it. And then also along with that is being able to adjust. If we see there's something we need to change internally, maybe a process isn't working like we want, or something customer facing, maybe we need to offer something different. We think we do a good job of being able to turn those ideas around pretty quickly, and not have to go through planning or for too many months or something like that, to be able to give our dealers what they need. And then if it's something internally, we can make those changes pretty quickly. So that's where we see, especially the differentiation with our Lipsey's exclusives. We're always looking to grow that, and that's a cornerstone of our business, and we're really proud of it.
All right. Do you, sorry, a little side note, do you still see my screen? I'm getting notes that the screen might be gone. Is that still?
I got the screen. I lost Aaron right in the middle of the conversation, so I don't know whether he dropped off or exactly.
You missed the most important part of this whole thing, George. Really. Jeez,
story of my life, day late and a dollar short.
Well, let me with just some time here, we could discuss this a lot, but as I said earlier, I want to focus on the leadership piece of this. Aaron, you hit a little bit upon that from a leadership perspective, and so did Dan there at Vista. But let's talk about a little bit what that is. Again, a lot of definitions on leadership. I like this because it talks about, I'll say transformational leadership, not just, taking something from point A to point B. But they create that vision. They motivate the people. They manage delivery of the vision, and I think the big piece that I like is coaching and building that team. As a leader, your role is to help your people be successful. In fact, that's the next quote that I've dug up here from some guy, Jack Welch. I think he ran some big company or something like that. When you're a leader, it's all about you growing yourself. When you become a leader, it's all about growing others. I actually heard a podcast this week, Pat Lancioni, who wrote a great book about the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and he was talking about what it means to be a leader. And it just, in 15 minutes, just narrowed down about, it's not about you, it's about what you can do for others. And I can share it with anybody, the link, if they want down in the future. But I'm asking now, how well, do you grow others? How well?
Let me throw a little bit of something in on that. Just because you're the leader doesn't mean you stagnate and you grow others. I mean, you do grow others, but you also have to strive to improve yourself as well. Like a firearms instructor, as an example. If he just stagnates and he just knows what he knows, he can pass that on to other people. But you always aspire to improve and get more information and do a better job yourself, as the leader. So you don't stagnate, in a particular spot and just help others.
Well, let's talk about this, right? One of the two things I've learned about this leadership component is A, that's what drives success. And B, most of us have not been trained, educated, mentored on how to be good leaders. We work mostly with a lot of the privately held companies. These leaders, these owners aren't coming out of Fortune 500 management development programs. They're entrepreneurs by design, and they typically don't have a lot of training, formal training in leadership. So begs the question, why do you think they should be great leaders if you've never been trained? Why would you be an expert marksman if you've never taken any training? I mean, yeah, you can learn yourself and whatever, YouTube or books and videos. I've never necessarily known anybody become Olympic champion by watching TV without having some hands-on coaching, which is why I like that coaching concept. So I look at this and yes, leadership is going to drive higher performance organizations, but most of the challenges that we see with our clients is the lack of leadership. I was speaking to a lady who was running her business. It was fairly successful, but there was a lot of challenges that she had, and I asked her, what she was doing to solve them and how she was solving them. And she looked at me and she pointed, her fingers to her back and said, Chris, can you see that cape on me? I'm Superwoman. I'm the president and CEO. Therefore, I have to have all the answers. I need to be Superwoman with everything. And that was the perspective about what she thought her role was. And I said, no, your role is to find the answers, not necessarily to have all the answers. And so, I think we've got a challenge here about we do know. I hope everyone agrees you need to be a great leader to build a great company, but how well have you been trained as a leader? How would you rate yourself as a leader? If you were to score yourself, 1 through 10, 10 being I'm a phenomenal leader, been doing a great job, how would you score yourself? How would you rate yourself?
And one of those things is, what are you doing in continuing education? What are you
doing
to improve
let's
yourself?
assume we're not going to get a 10, right? Well, how are you going to get better, right? And that's a little piece of today is trying to get people to understand, if you want to be better, you got to make a change. In fact, I mentioned I was an engineer, and so therefore I like flowchart diagrams. And so I did a little simplified leadership needs test, and it kind of goes like this. Start on the left-hand corner. Has your performance improved? And if it has, I'm going to simplify that and say, just keep doing it. Because if your performance is improved, and let me clarify performance. Performance, I'm going to focus more on margin, percent margin, i.e. you've gotten more, let's say profits out of less resources. So growing sales is definitely better performance. But if your margins have decreased or your profits decreased, your performance necessarily hasn't gotten better. You can actually decrease your revenues and get higher profitability because you're more operationally efficient. Dan was talking about sales and operations planning. That drives on average 6 to 8% profit improvement if done correctly. So you're becoming more efficient, and therefore your performance is improving. So if you have, keep doing it. Let's say that it has not improved. Your performance hasn't got better. You're a C performer. The question really is, are you okay with that performance? Are you happy with that performance? And being honest, if you are, okay, my performance hasn't gotten better, but I'm already at the higher level. I'm a higher performing company. It may not have gotten better, but I'm higher performing. So therefore, you're doing okay. Or there's a term I call comfortably stuck, meaning my performance hasn't improved, but I'm actually okay with it. And this is something we could dig in with a lot more time to this definition of comfortably stuck. But let's say your performance didn't improve. So let's go into the goal setting. I think Aaron was talking a lot about, aggressive goals. Did you set SMART, and this is, obtainable and realistic and tangible and so forth? Did you set SMART goals for the company? Those are needed to achieve higher performance. And if you did, then the question is, did you coach your team? This is where team coaching came into play. So if you set SMART goals and you coached your team, the assumption is, okay, yeah, I coached my team, but performance didn't get better. So therefore, maybe you don't have the right team or had poor coaching, which to me drives into a leadership piece. Because if you didn't coach your team, which is a part of leadership, then you've got a leadership need. And let's go back to, let's say you didn't set SMART goals. Well, it's hard not to get higher performance if you didn't set goals, because people are going to be performing the same way, which to me then drives back to leadership. So, what I see here is if your performance has improved, keep doing it. If it hasn't improved, but you're okay with it, you're either doing better or you're actually okay with it. Otherwise, it comes back to a leadership issue. And what's interesting as I think through this, and George and I talked a little about this earlier, is, if you have the self-doubt in here, well, I did all these things, but it's really not leadership, I'm going to go back to, well, wait, are you really okay your performance? And what we find is that, leaders sometimes get to a point where they're actually comfortable with where they're at because they don't know how to get out. And actually, I've been talking to a lot of leadership coaching experts to figure out how do we get better. And what they'll talk about is, you've got the choice to get better. You get two options: accept the performance you're at, or decide to make a change. And that sounds easy, but as I think through this, what I see is a lot of people think through the 12 steps of what's going to happen. And okay, I need to get better goals, but I don't know how to set good goals. But I could probably put some goals out. But if they don't get obtained, then and they walk through the scenario where they just go back to a circle and go, well, I may as well not get started. But I guess what I'm hearing and learning from some experts and clients that we've worked with, you can become a better leader. Yeah, you might need some training. Think about that next step, not the 12 steps. And yes, it might require a little more risk. It might for you to say you need to ask for some help, or there's some things I don't know. Again, many of us haven't been formally trained in leadership, so why would we know how to do this? So then the suggestion would then be to ask for help. So when we're kind of running tight on time here, so I do want to be able to get through this. I want to ask maybe one more poll question before we finish, so I can get this to work here, because I'm really curious on what people think their challenges are going to be going forward for the new year. So the poll here is, what would be the biggest challenge in improving performance in 2019 versus 2018? So would you go through and click on this, and we've organized it into building and executing goals, implementing, I'll say, impactful revenue generation. So revenue generation would be new product, sales and marketing initiatives. Operationally efficient is the next piece. That's kind of the systems piece of it. Maybe knowing where to start. I'm not sure where to start. And then the bottom one is the leadership piece. How much is the leadership piece part of your challenge, which effectively impacts the other 3 or 4 above. But maybe it is, we've got good leadership, but we just haven't been able to get their goals established or aligned. So why don't we take 30 seconds, and we'll be looking at here, George. We've got about a minute left.
I'll also chime in, Chris, being a leader and having the people in place, is you also have to give them the tools to succeed, whether that's data, whether that's training, let's say of your sales staff to be knowledgeable on the products they're selling. Maybe that's the internal management system tools. Maybe it's the, who knows what it is, or the ability to make decisions, and to how they go about their daily activity. All that kind of plays into giving people the ability to have the tools to be successful. And, that I think that's a huge part of it, and making sure you have those things in place.
Very, very true. Very, very true. There's a lot involved in this. And again, we could have a 5-hour discussion on leadership alone. Here's the results. The biggest answer was actually building and executing the goals for the business, followed by the revenue generation, and then leadership was third. Operationally efficient was fourth, and everyone knows where to start, which is great. So let me do this, because we're going to have to wrap up here and talk about what we've learned. I want to emphasize the need of relativity, right? This is all about how you compete versus others, and we talked about that. Most are forecasting a flat demand going forward. Leadership is a key piece of this. Is what we've seen. It all comes back to that leadership. But the key is you can make a difference. We kind of went through quickly at the end here, leadership, but you can take some baby steps. You can become better, and that will make a difference in the performance of your business. Now, there's a bunch of questions we had on here. I'm going to have to get those separately later. I'm going to ask Dan and Aaron and George a little wrap up. But if you have more questions or answers or questions, here's our contact information. Dan, is there something you wanna help summarize, like 30 seconds?
Yeah, I'd say on that last leadership part there, one of the big things that I like is, you look back at all the bosses that you've had and what you like, what you didn't like. And so something that I've done to try and help is autonomy and accountability. Give your team the freedom to do what they need to do. Give them clearly defined goals, clearly defined measurements, check in at predetermined times. And really, let them run with it. It's okay to make mistakes. At the end of the day, if you're not making some mistakes, you're not learning. Now, there's times, appropriate times to check in on all that stuff, but autonomy is a big it's a big challenge at a lot of times, but it's also a great tool that people have responded well to so far.
Great, agreed. Aaron?
Yeah, I agree with what Dan just said. It's going to be having the people in place to make decisions and execute the goals set forth, and also if you're a leader coming forward with not only here's what we want to do, but also here's how we're going to do it, and having a plan in place and having realistic expectations and knowing how we're going to accomplish the goal, not just having here it is and go try to figure it out. I think that's a big part of it as well. Agreed.
And George, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we all need to do is to look at people that have been there and done that, that have been in our position before, and seek their advice. You never can know it all, and if you can learn from somebody else's experiences rather than experiencing it yourself, you generally get things done a whole lot quicker.
Those listening went down that path of leadership being an issue. To George's point, we haven't found. I mean, whether you're trying to improve your shooting or your business, you typically need help. The best thing you can do, at least the best we've heard, is that if you find other CEOs that would, mentor you for free or give you some free guidance, it's the best way to go. After that, you should ask for help, whether it be us or anybody else that has some expertise in the industry and or what's needed here. We've got some discount specials for NSGW members and non-members just until SHOT Show. If you have more questions, please give us a call. I apologize for going over. I apologize we had these technical issues, but I hope people got some good education and insight and can actually prepare 219 to be more successful than 218. So thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, George. And then Kenyon and NASGW, thank you for helping support this. Everyone have a great holiday, great Christmas, Happy New Year, and hope to see everybody at SHOT. If you like this presentation, you want to buy George and I a drink there, we're up for it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great